This is Paul Thomas, Senior Editor of Pharmaceutical Manufacturing Magazine and PharmaQBD.com. And I'm here at PittCon 2009 with Pat Pijanowski. Pat, welcome.
Thank you, Paul.
Pat is the General Manager for the SQL LIMS business for Applied Biosystems. And Pat, SQL LIMS is well established in the market, but what can it do now in 2009 that maybe it couldn't do a year or two ago?
Sure. Well, as you can imagine, Paul, it's been a busy time for us in the last couple of years. There's been a lot of exciting developments with respect to SQL LIMS and where we're taking that product and how we're serving our customers. In particular, we're extending the product portfolio with feature sets and product extensions that really serve the marketplace along four different avenues. The first is really supporting integrated business solutions in ways that haven't been done before. This is a tremendous demand from the marketplace, and we hear this from our customers all the time as they're driving toward more integrated business processes. The second is to lower the threshold associated with being able to deploy a LIMS system within the pharmaceutical environment and all the regulatory requirements, the cost and operational impact of validation and implementation itself. The third really is with respect to eliminating the LIMS learning curve for key elements of the user community and allowing everyone to have access to the benefits of just why you chose to make that investment in the first place. And then the fourth avenue is getting information out. So for many years, the applications have developed quite nicely along the lines of supporting processes and getting information in. But the key today we hear from the marketplace is really give me new ways to get information out so I can do what I need to do.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk a little bit more about each of those four avenues, but one of the things that is new and exciting for you is the SQL LIMS P4. I'll let you go ahead and tell us about it.
Okay, great. Yeah, SQL LIMS P4 stands for the plug-and-play pharma package, and it is a really exciting and truly unique innovation in the world of LIMS, in particular in support of pharmaceutical manufacturing and quality control. What we've done is we've actually taken SQL LIMS and simply bundled in industry best practices with respect to the system configuration and all of the validation surrounding that particular configuration. So, as I'm sure you're aware, one of the greatest hurdles to overcome with respect to cost and operational impact of deploying a LIMS is the actual validation costs. And so P4 has hit the marketplace and really received a tremendous amount of positive feedback, both from customers as well as from industry thought leaders. For example, we just recently learned that we will receive an award for vertical market penetration from Frost & Sullivan, recognizing and essentially providing credibility for this particular concept.
Can you tell us anything more about that feedback in terms of what some of your customers are realizing in terms of time and cost savings?
Sure. Yeah, and this is really great stuff. I'll divide this into two different categories. And what we found, very pleasantly surprised, that we have a great deal of interest from both new customers who are looking for a way to get a LIMS deployed and up and running much faster and cheaper. And typically a new customer, single site, will see something on the order of 75% time savings, potentially up to 85% cost savings relative to a traditional deployment. Mm-hmm. Start to finish then, if the customer's well prepared for us when we arrive, we can go from project kickoff to go live in a pharmaceutical manufacturing environment in about 3 months. And this is really unheard of for a truly fully validated deployment of a LIMS system. Mm-hmm. Secondly, with our existing customers, and this was the real pleasant surprise for us in the marketplace, our existing customers are finding that the industry best practices baked in to a P4 make it an ideal platform for upgrading from an old version to a new version. And they're having the same kinds of cost and time savings associated with their upgrade projects as I just explained for our new customers.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about some of the more specific options that your users have with SQL LIMS. You have the micro EM. Tell us more about the micro EM.
Sure. So SQL LIMS micro EM is a relatively recent introduction. It's a premium solution for environmental monitoring and QC micro. operations within pharmaceutical manufacturing. It provides, unlike the traditional scheduler-based configurations of LIMS systems that have been around for years and years, this provides a totally paperless, totally tailored solution specific for environmental monitoring.
And then you've also got the SQL LIMS QEMS for quality event management.
That's right. This is really a laboratory level or quality testing level quality event management system. So if you can envision in a manufacturing environment, there are a lot of activities and pieces of information that need to be managed and captured and reviewed prior to a product release decision. QEMS extends the LIMS platform in a way that allows you to capture and manage those other non-laboratory quality events and provide an overall electronic review prior to dispositioning the product from a quality standpoint.
Mm-hmm. And then another thing that's obviously in line with the direction the industry is headed is you've got the SQL LIMS e-notebook. And obviously a lot of people are interested in e-notebooks. Tell us more about that.
That's right. E-notebook is another one of those really hot areas. People are very, very much interested in that. This is one of those offerings, I think, that does two things with respect to the key drivers in the industry today. One is it eliminates the LIMS learning curve. And the SQL LIMS e-notebook essentially allows you to create an electronic version of the laboratory worksheets that your technicians are using today. And for them to take that electronic worksheet into the laboratory, follow their SOP, enter their data, and have that data deposited directly into the same repository as all the rest of your quality testing information. Mm-hmm. Right? So now those technicians don't have to learn to use LIMS or log into LIMS in order to do what they do. They're presented with a familiar user interface, right? And you have control with respect to the quality of your overall operation. And you have the assurance that your SOP is followed by virtue of following down that worksheet, just as you normally do.
Mm-hmm. Well, my next question was going to be what's something that your users might not know about or might surprise them. Maybe that's one of those things, is the simplicity of the implementation, maybe?
Well, it really is, yeah. There's a number of e-notebook products in the marketplace and have been for several years now. And as you mentioned, a lot of buzz about e-notebook. The beautiful thing about this is that it works the way you do. You essentially capture an electronic image of the paper worksheet that all of your technicians are familiar with, so they don't have to learn anything different. Mm-hmm. They literally just work with paper on glass, and the organization realizes the benefits of the investment in their LIMS system.
Of course, integration is another buzzword, and what sorts of things are happening with SQL LIMS to better integrate with the larger IT environment?
So, yeah, this is absolutely one of those great drivers in the industry. As I mentioned earlier, integrated business processes and a drive toward facilitating that is a real demand from our customer base in the last few years. For a number of years, we've had a certified interface to SAP QM, and that's a fairly common and well-known integration tool. We've recently introduced a generic interfacing tool that allows us to make integrations to virtually any enterprise platform that lives in the same environment as LIMS. And so it's a configurable framework that allows us to share information, both inputs and outputs, with respect to the receiving system and the sending system as well.
And of course, the ultimate goal for a lot of manufacturers and a lot of laboratories is to go paperless. And what other things is your company doing to sort of enable that paperless environment?
Well, a number of the things we've talked about up to this point really have a paperless flavor to them. The e-notebook solution on top of SQL LIMS is one of those. As I mentioned, SQL LIMS Micro EM is the only totally paperless EM solution in the LIMS world today. In addition to that, I think one of the key drivers in the marketplace is delivery of information. And so historically, we see a lot of reports being written in the LIMS world in order to deliver information to the users. And one of the things that's been a key innovation for us in the last 12 months is the SQL LIMS Information Delivery Suite. And we're introducing that here at PitCon this year. It's a framework that allows the users to easily and in natural language define an ad hoc query to ask the system questions without having to go to a developer to write a report, and then to send those questions through push technology out to things like handheld devices, out to things like widgets that float on the desktop of your desktop PC, similar to the weather, time, and temperature kinds of widgets that everyone's got configured these days. And so the ability for a supervisor to have with him or her on their handheld device lots that are ready for release, samples that are out of specification, notifications like that at their disposal, real time, is a reality today. And I think that, from a paperless standpoint, is one of the great innovations we're going to talk about this year.
So a lot of very cool, kind of cutting-edge things going on.
Absolutely.
And another one of those things is the SQL LIMS ICE, or the Innovation Center. Innovation Center Exchange. Tell us more about the ICE.
Well, this is something that we're particularly excited about. It's an initiative that started with our Strategic Advisory Board, which is a gathering of about 12 of our key customers from various marketplaces around the world. There was a desire on our part and on their part to look for creative ways to drive the rate of innovation faster than we could do with a fixed amount of resources and in the confines of the standard product development life cycle. And so what we've done is we've leveraged and adapted the open source community concept and applied it within the SQL LIMS user community. So you can think of it as leveraging the fact that as a SQL LIMS user, you're a member of the largest LIMS community in the world. So rather than starting from a white sheet of paper when you're ready to do something, to extend functionality, create a new type of automation trigger, whatever it might be, you can go to this SQL LIMS ICE repository and look for someone else somewhere else in the world who's already done it. The code is deposited there, some basic documentation is deposited there, and you can download it and use that code just as it is, enhance it, and deposit it back to the repository for others to benefit from as well. Our key customers have really gotten on board with this, and as of the time that we're speaking today, we have contributions from Pfizer, from Baxter Biosciences, from Novo Nordisk, and from Barr Laboratories, as well as several hundred that will be contributing from our own professional services organization, such that when we get our first deposit completed, we expect to have well over 1,000 pieces of code deposited in this repository for people to choose from and benefit from, add to, and build upon.
What a nice resource for people to have that are just getting into this, or maybe don't have the resources of a Pfizer or another company like that.
Absolutely.
To be able to build off of that.
Absolutely.
Well, Pat Pijanowski, thanks so much for talking with us today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Paul.
All right,
It's
good
been
luck.
my pleasure. Thank you.